Okay, let's unpack this incredible organ in our heads, right? Billions of neurons. How do they actually connect? Is it just random? Or are there actual rules? It's a huge question in neuroscience.
Oh, absolutely fundamental. We all hear that phrase, neurons that fire together, wire together, but, well, it's a bit simplistic, isn't it? The reality is much more complex.
Yeah, like how does the brain decide which neuron connects to which?
Yeah, exactly. It really makes you wonder.
And that's precisely what we're diving into today. We've got this really fascinating study just out in nature. It tackles this head on.
Right, using this incredible data set from the mouse visual cortex. They call it MR.
MR. So what is that exactly?
Think of it like a super, super high-resolution map of that part of the brain. Just unprecedented detail. It lets you see the wiring like never before.
Wow. So it's not just seeing that they connect, but how?
Precisely. It moves way beyond just fire together, wire together. It gets into the specifics of partner selection, you know.
And it's not just a static map, is it? I heard it combines structure and function.
That's the really unique part, yeah. They combined the physical wiring, the structure, with what those neurons were actually doing the function at the single neuron level.
How did they manage that?
Well, for the function part, they used calcium imaging. So they could watch, in real time, which neurons lit up in live mice while they were looking at visual stimuli.
Okay, so they see which neurons are active.
And then afterwards, they used electron microscopy. Just painstaking work.
To map the actual physical connections.
Every tiny synaptic connection between those specific neurons they just watched, it's like seeing the complete picture, who's talking to whom and what they were talking about.
Incredible. Like getting the blueprint and the conversation transcript all at once.
Exactly. And then to dig even deeper, they used AI. They built these models, digital twins, they call them, for individual neurons.
Digital twins, so like a computer simulation of a neuron.
Pretty much. These models simulated how each neuron processed visual information, its response to different patterns, different locations in the visual field.
And that gave them a measure of, what was it, functional similarity.
Functional similarity, yes. Basically, a way to quantify how alike two neurons are in terms of their job, what they respond to.
Got it. So our mission for this deep dive is clear then. Use this amazing data set to explore the visual system's wiring secrets, especially this idea of like connects to like.
That's the plan. Does this detailed map actually confirm that principle? Let's find out.
Well, spoiler alert, it sounds like a big yes.
It does. The study found that yes, neurons that are functionally similar are significantly more likely to form connections.
And that holds true across the board, like within the same brain area and even between different areas or layers.
Yeah, it seems to be a really widespread rule in the visual system, a kind of fundamental organizing principle. Neurons doing similar jobs tend to link up.
Okay, but functionally similar could mean different things, right? Like two neurons might both like vertical lines, or they might both focus on the top left corner of the view. How did they tease that apart?
Ah, good question. And that's where those digital twins were so powerful. They allowed the researchers to break down neuron function into two main things.
Okay, what were they?
First was feature preference. So what specific visual feature a neuron gets excited about, like a particular angle of a line or maybe a certain texture. The what of vision?
The what? Okay, makes sense. And the second?
The second was spatial location. Basically, where in the visual field that neuron is paying attention, the where of vision.
Right, so we've got the what and the where. Now, the big question, when neurons are deciding whether to connect, which one matters more? Is it the what or the where?
And this is where it gets really, really interesting.
Yeah.
What they found was, well, being close in both function and physical location makes it more likely that their wires, axons, and dendrites will be near each other.
Okay, so proximity helps them sort of bump into each other.
Exactly. They need to be in the same general neighborhood for a connection to even be possible. Makes sense, right?
Yeah, physically.
But when it came down to forming an actual synapse, that functional link, the similarity in feature preference, the what, was much more important.
Wow, really? So sharing the same job description is more critical than being neighbors?
It seems so. The data strongly suggests that the brain prioritizes matching the what when forming these connections. Location matters for getting close, but function seals the deal, so to speak.
That's fascinating. It's like, you might meet people who live on your street,
Yeah.
But you actually become friends with the ones who share your hobbies, your interests, the what about you, even if they live further away.
That's a perfect analogy. Exactly. Proximity might get you introduced, but shared function, shared interests, that's what builds the stronger, lasting connection.
So the brain's wiring seems biased towards grouping neurons that process similar kinds of information, rather than just ones that look at adjacent bits of space.
Precisely. It suggests the system is really optimized for understanding the content of the visual world.
Okay, so connects to especially based on what features they process. But is it all just these one-to-one pairings, or is there more structure to it? Did they find anything more complex?
They did, actually. They found evidence for what they called a higher order rule, something beyond just simple pairwise connections.
Higher order rule. Okay, intriguing. What does that mean?
Well, imagine you have one neuron, let's call it a teacher neuron, sending signals to several other neurons, the student neurons.
Okay, one teacher, multiple students. Got it.
What they discovered is that this group of student neurons, all receiving input from the same teacher, are actually more functionally similar to each other than you'd expect just based on the basic, connects to rule alone.
Huh. Wait, so learning from the same teacher makes the students more similar to each other, not just similar to the teacher.
Kinda, yeah. Sharing that common input source seems to foster an extra layer of similarity among the downstream neurons. It's like the students in the same study group end up thinking more alike because they're all grappling with the same material from the same source.
That implies a much more structured organization, doesn't it? Like functional communities forming.
Exactly. It's not just random pairs. It's about building these coordinated ensembles of neurons that share inputs and likely share related processing tasks.
That is really cool. And didn't you mention something about seeing similar patterns in AI?
Yes. This is one of the really compelling parts. They trained artificial neural networks, specifically recurrent neural networks, or RNNs, to do image classification, standard AI task.
Okay.
And guess what? These AI networks, just through the process of learning the task,
Mm.
spontaneously developed connection patterns that followed the same connects-to-like principle,
Yeah.
and even showed signs of those higher-order structures.
Without being explicitly programmed to do so?
Exactly. The rules just sort of emerged as an efficient way to organize the network for the task.
That's wild. It suggests these wiring rules might be pretty universal for effective information processing, biological or artificial.
It really does. And what's more, when they deliberately messed up these self-organized connection patterns in the AI,
Performance dropped.
significantly, which tells you these specific wiring structures aren't just some accidental byproduct. They're actually functionally important for doing the job well.
Okay, so bringing this all together, this deep dive into the MR dataset has really shown a light on some core principles of brain wiring, at least in the visual system.
Definitely. The big takeaway is that like connects to like is a major rule, and it's driven more strongly by similarity in what neurons process their feature preference than just where they are.
And it's not just simple pairs. There are these higher order structures, these communities of neurons forming around shared inputs.
That's right. A more sophisticated architecture than we might have assumed.
So here's a final thought for you listening. This research strongly suggests the brain prioritizes the what over the where when building connections in the visual system. Does that maybe hint at something deeper about our own cognition?
How so?
Well, could it suggest that fundamentally figuring out what something is might be a more critical, perhaps primary task for our brain compared to pinpointing exactly where it is, especially when it comes to forming lasting representations or memories?
That's a really interesting question to chew on. Does function trump location in how we build our understanding of the world? It certainly makes you think about the brain's priorities.
Definitely food for thought. And the parallels with AI developing similar strategies just adds another layer.
Absolutely. The implications here for understanding ourselves and maybe for building smarter AI are pretty significant. Lots more to explore there.